Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity. We're based here in Leeds in England and we help people who are facing the end of their lives or dealing with bereavement to write and record an original song. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can visit our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. Every episode I have a different songwriter on. I ask them to share with us one of their songs. We talk about how they wrote it. I ask them to share a songwriting tip, and I also ask them for a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. This episode features Hannah Scott. It's a really interesting and fun conversation. There's lots of really good insights into Hannah's process, and she's written some great songs, often with kind of not kind of complex, but interesting themes and relationships between people in them. So she got some really interesting songs that deal with some things that you might not hear in songs too commonly. So there's lots of really interesting discussion during this episode. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We've got a lot more great guests coming up that you're not going to want to miss. But without further ado, here is Hannah Scott on the Swan Song Podcast. Enjoy. Okay, today I'm here with Hannah Scott. Thanks for joining me, Hannah.
Pleasure to be here, Ben. Thank you for having me.
We're looking forward to chatting to you. So for anyone new to the show, this is the Swan Song Podcast. Each episode I have a different songwriter on, and we do it in three parts. So first we're going to have one of Hannah's songs, and we'll have a chat about how she wrote it. Then in section 2, I'll ask Hannah for a songwriting tip. And then section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Hannah in some way related to bereavement. So over to you, Hannah. Which song of yours have you chosen to talk to us about today?
I've chosen to talk to you about a song from my very new record, Absence of Doubt, and the song is called Love You Like I Did. And I wrote this song for my two young stepsons. I had an idea that I wanted to write them a song for a little while, and then my eldest stepson broke his arm on my watch, and it was the first time I'd been left with him overnight. My partner was away for work. This is a couple of years back now. They would have been about 6 and 4. So I made some nice plans for the day. Soft play, lunch with my mum. Within 15 minutes of being in the soft play, my eldest fell awkwardly, and well done, Hannah. Right, and I was sitting with him, and he was just in such a huge amount of pain, and I felt that pain so deeply within myself that in that moment I realised I couldn't love him anymore if I'd given birth to him. And so the song is really about, I guess, how much I love them, despite the fact that I didn't carry them and give birth to them. And it's a song that people with stepchildren, but also people with adopted children resonate with. My younger sister has an adopted little boy. He's now 4, and she adopted him when he was a baby. But there's a lyric in there: "I may not have held you first, but I love you like I did." And I think, that lyric is something that people who are in that situation often resonate with. So.
Yeah, brilliant. So for people listening, let's have a listen to the song. So this is Love You Like I Did.
Though your body is not of my body, nor your blood of my blood, though your story began long before me, all that
course, I'll chop that in here.
Cool.
Okay, brilliant. So that was "Love You Like I Did." Yeah, it's a powerful song, Hannah. I love songs where it's like, so it's not like a standard theme for a song, is it? The relationship between a step parent and a child, but but it is a theme that is like, very common and lots of people will relate to it. And so I love songs where it is something like that. It's not the standard love song. But it's something which is obviously will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, people have often come up to me afterwards and said, I've got an adopted grandson, or I'm part of a kind of a big blended family, and I've never heard anyone sing about the that topic particularly, which is nice. That there are a couple of love songs on the album too, and I'm happy to write those kind of songs as well. But it is nice to also kind of try and come up with themes that are relevant, but that lots of other people aren't singing about, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's kind of good bit of advice what comes up a lot on this show of like trying to write about your authentic experience rather than writing. Well, I think a lot of time when people start songwriting, it's thinking like, well, these are things that you write songs about, rather than what's in my life, what's important to me, and writing about that, even if it's not the kind of thing you often hear.
Yeah, well, that's often the thing that will set you apart. Ultimately, that, like, as I said, I'll probably always write love songs, and I'll probably always write songs in themes that lots of people write about, the connection, home, but sometimes it is the song that is just slightly different. It's still a love song ultimately. It's just a love song for for a different kind of relationship. So yeah,
it's really good. And so what was it like writing it then? So you said that you'd wanted to write a song for them for a while. Did you have any other approach, like attempts at writing one, or was it just that you liked the idea of it and you were looking for
no, not really. I have a list of themes, of ideas, of songs that I might sit down and strum a few chords and think, well, what does that feel like? And then I might go and have a look at the list of kind of unwritten songs, if you like, songs that I want to write but that haven't found their way out yet.
That list, sorry to interrupt, is that list like like themes, or is it like lyrics or titles, or is there any structure to
it's themes generally, or maybe feelings, or I do try and kind of tell stories a little bit with my songs, so I would say it's kind of mainly themes. I've just started writing something new, having kind of gone through the process of making and independently releasing an album, and then I've done a bit of a tour. I'm just kind of coming back into land, and I've started writing something, and I've got kind of chords and melody, and I'm looking at my list. I'm thinking, where does it, that's kind of how I guess approach the list. It might be that I get a lyric idea for something, and that leads into like a melody and then into a song. But with this particular song, I mean, it sounds a bit silly, but I was in the shower, and just like a little melody came into my mind, and I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna, rather than sitting and doing admin, which is much easier to do than writing a song, and there's always plenty of admin to do. I was like, no, I'm not going to go and send emails and do that kind of thing today. I am going to go and try and develop this a little bit, and so I did, and I got that kind of the lyric hook, I guess, I may not have held you first, and then love you like I did, and then kind of worked on the melody for that bit. Usually with me, actually, I tend to write, if I'm going to write anything first, it's usually melody first and then lyric comes after. But on that particular occasion, it was the lyric hook that came first. And I wrote the chorus first, and then struggled a little bit to find the melody for the verse. I think I had an evening to myself, which is quite rare these days. And I was cooking, and again, I often find that it's when I'm sitting down thinking about it, that's not the moment that the idea necessarily comes. It's, I'm walking the dog, or I'm cooking dinner, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to rush upstairs and sit down at the keyboard and try and kind of bash that idea out and see where that leads. And yeah, that's kind of where the verse came in. And yeah, the middle eight, I don't know, yeah, sometimes I find that a middle eight, that kind of the section between after the second chorus to keep the listener's interest, I often find that section the easiest to write. And it, I think once I've kind of got the chorus and the verse, or the structure of the song, the middle eight will often just fall out. And it did on this occasion too. And then once I've kind of got the melody and the structure, then I just kind of work through the lyrics and make sure that, I'm happy with what I'm saying. And yeah, so that's how this one worked. And I started playing it live quite quickly. And I played it to my partner, and I play her everything that I write, and she's fairly like tough, and but she shed a tear, and I was like, okay, I know I've written a good one here, because if I've moved her, and I know it's personal to her as well, because obviously it's her children, but if I've moved her to feel in that way. And then I sent it to my family, and my younger sister, who we've mentioned also, who adopted a little boy, she was in tears over it, and she's kind of taken the lyric and wants to get a tattoo. And so I think I felt fairly early on in, it's kind of almost as soon as it was finished, that I'd maybe achieved what I set out to do. And not all songs do that. I might finish something and think that doesn't quite, it hasn't quite done what I wanted it to do. But this one, I think I knew fairly early on that I was really pleased with it. So and sharing it with you guys. So
yeah, that's always a good test when you see someone's, and particularly someone who's so connected to it, see a strong reaction in them. And so good to have that kind of someone who can be a good sounding board for your songs, isn't it, when they're done. A few questions jumped into my head there, so I'm just choosing which one to start with. How long was the process, do you remember, of the whole song from?
I mean, it's spread out, because again, given other, family commitments, I also teach piano. That's kind of the solid bread and butter. It was probably kind of over a couple of weeks, I would say, but that's not sitting with it every day. That's I've got 3 or 4 hours here to work on this bit, and then go away and do something else, and then come back to it. And which, for me, sometimes songs do literally just fall out, but rarely. Sometimes they can take weeks from start to, weeks into months. So kind of 2 to 3 weeks is, if I've written a song in that period, something that I'm happy with, then that's quite good going. So definitely not prolific.
Yeah.
A slow writer.
And is that process kind of similar to how you work in general, where you have, so you say you play around some musical ideas and you have your list of themes, and then, so something I'm always really interested in, and it's a weird question, I think it's kind of a hard question to answer a lot of the time, but is there anything that you're either looking for, or that, I guess, what makes those connections, so like, say you've got your list of themes, and then you just, so am I right to think that then you're just playing, like you're just improvising, or like coming up with, playing around with different ideas? Is there anything conscious that's when you come up with something that you're like, this fits this theme?
I think
or is it just a
feeling? It's just I'm playing some music, and I'm thinking about the things that are kind of happening in my life, the things that I want to write about, the things and as I'm playing it, which one am I drawn to, or maybe none of them, and in which case then I need to find something else to write about for the, lyrically for the music that I'm writing. And that does happen too. But it's a kind of an instinct, I would say, that yes, this music really leads me to want to kind of flesh out this idea and this theme, and to write that to the music that I'm playing. I think if it was anything more than that, then it would sometimes probably feel like forcing two things, putting square peg in a round hole. If it doesn't feel like the melody is going to fit with an idea, then it's probably not. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an I just find that so fascinating of what it is. I like the music just kind of has a mind of its own in a way, doesn't it? Like it's kind of almost suggesting what it wants to say lyrically.
yeah, it does, because
Which is
they're two different art forms, aren't they? And I mean, there are still people who write music and not lyrics, and there are still people who write lyrics and not music. But 60, 70 years ago, you either wrote the lyrics or the melody. Even just looking at Christmas carols, for example, or hymns, it was all separate. And how you get the kind of the two things as one person writing both to kind of get the two things to fit. I think for me it's definitely an instinctive thing. So
yeah. Do you have a preferred element? Like, do you have you prefer the lyrical side or do you prefer the music side, or is it just all kind of no
I mean,
separation?
I like both. I work hard on my lyrics. I try to, as I said, kind of try to tell a story. When I sing, I try to make sure that my lyrics are really clear. People often says it's so nice to be able to hear what you're singing, and I said, well, there would be no point spending all that time writing those lyrics if when I actually sing them, no one can make out what I'm saying. But I've been kind of playing music since I was a young child, and I've always loved, kind of messing around with little tunes and melodies, and so yeah, I like both elements. I would say that if I had to lose one of them, then I'd be sad.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so you said with this one that you had the melody ideas and then you put the lyrics to the melody, is that right? And is that how you would normally do it, or would you ever sit down and write like a full set of lyrics
Yeah,
and then
so
compose to that?
I wouldn't sit and write a whole lyric, because in the past, friends have given me poems, and poems that actually, would work as a song lyric, absolutely. But when I've tried to kind of write music to a whole set of words, it doesn't really work for me. I don't know why. It hasn't worked in that way. I do have, kind of lyrical hook ideas, or I might write, a couple of lines or a couplet, or perhaps even have the idea for like half a verse or half a chorus or something like that. But once I've got that, I will then go and sit down at the keyboard or with my guitar, because if I go too far, I'll know that then I'll probably struggle to find, to write a melody that fits it too well. Whereas I have done the opposite quite regularly, actually, and especially when I've co-written in the past, write the whole song musically and then actually have no idea what it's going to be about yet, and then of course, the melody, you adjust the melody slightly for the lyric to fit, but to have the broad outline of a whole song before writing a lyric, I've definitely done it that way around. I actually prefer to have the two coming together.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got to start with one idea, but if it's a lyric and a short hook, then going to the melody and trying to find a melody and then building it up kind of gradually on both, with both things working together. And the same if I've got a short melody idea, trying to find, okay, what's this song going to be about, writing a lyric to fit that melody and then expanding it together. But I guess creativity works in mysterious ways, and you can't always dictate how it's going to emerge. And if at the end of the day you've got a song that you're happy with and proud of, then I suppose it doesn't really matter how it's come out, does it?
Yeah. And there's I quote Leonard Cohen all the time on this podcast, but there was something that he said one time where someone asked him about how he writes his songs, and he said, like, if I knew how to write the good ones, I'd go there more often. That quote where it's like, and so even people like him who've been writing songs for so long, it's like the same, you don't, it's not like, well, this is the way I write songs, this works every time. It's like you kind of have to keep testing yourself and keep trying different methods, don't you? And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never quite know what's going to work for one.
And it might be that, something works for one, something works for another, something doesn't work that has worked before, something on a particular day, works or doesn't work that has, yeah, I think, well, creativity is mysterious, isn't it, ultimately? And
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of yeah, how there's not really an answer to it, is there? So it's
Yeah.
just having the time and the space and the courage, I suppose, because I mean, post an album, I always get this moment of, oh God, I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid to sit down and do it in case I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Having those elements and actually just making the time to do it and not being too attached to what comes out, because sometimes it's going to be rubbish. But if you don't allow that space, then the good stuff won't come out either. So
Yeah. That's very good advice as well. Yeah. Um, so I think it was when I had Franz Von on the podcast a little while ago, and we were talking about his tip was about making it fun and just really enjoying it, the whole process, and just trying to have that mindset the whole way through rather than worrying about writing a good song. And we were talking about how creativity is one of those things where the harder you work doesn't necessarily guarantee the better outcomes. Some things it's like, well, if I put more hours into it, it's going to be better. But like, and you said it earlier, if some songs just come like that, and some songs take ages and ages, but there's no guarantee one's going to be better than the other. Sometimes it is just so you
yeah.
kind of got to find a way of enjoying the process and just trusting that whichever way they come.
Yeah, I think it's kind of allowing that inner child to emerge as well. I teach piano, I teach mainly children. I do teach some adults as well, but mainly children. And the number of children I teach who, when I come into the lesson the following week, they're like, "Oh, Hannah, I wrote this tune, and can I play it for you?" And I always sit down at the piano, I'm always kind of making stuff up, and they approach it with just with enjoyment, because they like to do it. And I think as we get older, we and as it becomes our career or part of our career, that enjoyment kind of gets replaced almost by like pressure, whether it's pressure
Mm,
from external or external sources, if you've got a label or a publisher kind of on your back to do whatever you need to do, or if it's if you're self-releasing your self pressure, I guess that it's something that you do, it's something that you have to do, rather than approaching it with that just sheer I love music, and let's play with it, let's play around with it. But
yeah.
easier said than done as an
Yeah,
adult.
definitely. Yeah, and the kind of like what you think is expected of you. That's such a common thing, isn't it? Particularly after you've had a few albums, and like, so I always respect artists that have that that are very eclectic. Um, Whereas like a new album comes out, it might be very different to the previous stuff because it takes a lot of kind of guts to do that, doesn't it? Of like you've got a sound that people like, and the better you get at it, the easier it is to then to do that again. Like, well, I can write those type of songs,
Yeah.
um, but how hard it can be then to challenge yourself to write something different, and the courage to then put that out, knowing that fans who like your other stuff might not like the new stuff as much.
Yeah, no, it is a challenge. And I think kind of in between projects, there's also something that I'm thinking about quite a lot at the moment, how I could just write the same 9 songs, obviously they won't be the same, but um wanting what I do next to not be the same, or like so too similar to what I just did, because creatively, it's a bit boring, isn't it? But then like having the courage to kind of push yourself and do something different is not always easy. And also the
Mm.
fear again, that if you are kind of pushing boundaries and doing something different, that it won't be as good as what you. But
Yeah, and again, it's all kind of part of finding yourself, isn't it? Of like, because it's that thing of what there's a phrase for it, isn't it? About where it's like it's just enough new stuff with the old stuff to make it interesting without like you don't want to completely reinvent the wheel and go and like be like, right, well now I'm going to be a reggae singer or I'm going to do a drum and bass album. Or like, have you heard that thing about Neil Young apparently tried to put out an album of like, was it like, it was like a dance album or something like that. And I'm sure, and his record label were like, what are you doing? You're Neil Young. We want like an album of Neil Young type music, which I kind of love. But yeah, it's that kind of like making it interesting enough whilst also remaining what's your sound and what's your strengths and what you're comfortable doing. Um, Following up from that, like, do you have like ambitions or like aims of what kind of stuff you would like to do, or is it more like yeah, letting it come out? So for me, it's one of the things that I found trickier. The kind of, I guess, the better I got at songwriting. That when I used to write, it used to be very kind of like I wouldn't have any idea what I was trying to do. I'd just play, and I'd try and play something that I thought that was fun or that was different, and I had no kind of like um like I'm going to write a song in this style today. It was just seeing what came out. Whereas now I find it a lot harder to be as free of that because I know so many songwriting methods. It's easy to be like, right, what I'm going to do, this is going to be a rock song. So these are the kind of things I'll do to make it sound like a rock song. Whereas in the early days, it was just play and see what comes out. Do you have any, yeah, I guess, what's your approach in that regard? And do you have anything where it's like, I would like to explore more of this on my new album, more of these kind of songs or these kind of textures or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's often the song that leads to the genre or the sound. I guess there's one song on my new record called Stone in My Mouth that I wrote on an acoustic guitar. Didn't really think too much about how it would end up sounding as I was writing it. And then as I, kind of got closer to making the record and I was, demoing the songs, I realized that actually this is quite an angry song. This is quite a heavy song. This is quite a rocky song. And when musicians came into the studio, I'm thinking particularly about the guitarist I work with, George Boomsma, who's great actually. Maybe he's someone for you to be in touch with. He works with Catherine Priddy, the folk singer, and I met him through English Folk Expo's artist mentoring program. We were on the program the same year, and he's a beautiful songwriter and singer, but he's an absolutely amazing guitarist. And we'd known each other for that year, and then I kind of messaged him and said, I don't suppose you'd be interested in coming to play some guitars on my record, would you? And he was like, yeah, I'd be up for that. Why not? So he came and he recorded the guitars, but he kind of said to me, I wasn't really expecting to be playing quite so much electric. And on this particular song I'm talking about, it's basically ended up becoming kind of quite a rock song. But I didn't write it thinking I'm writing a rock song here, if that makes sense. I've kind of gone round the houses to tell you that story, I think. But and I don't know if that's, I don't know. I wonder whether with my next project I might be a little more aware of how they might end up sounding. This record's the first that I've co-produced, so it's really the first time I've thought about those things in the studio. So maybe that's an evolution that actually when I start writing, for this next record, that I will have those things in mind. Whereas for the last one, I didn't really. I was just kind of writing songs and see where it goes. Just remind me of your other question. Sorry. I've just gone around the houses a little bit there. Sorry.
I think you basically answered it. I think it was just that kind of, yeah, if you had any other, if you currently have any thoughts of what things you'd like to do on the new record or your next batch of songs,
actually, I think I have wondered whether I might like to do something a bit more acoustic. Some people say, I guess songwriting music is subjective, isn't it? But some people say I love the production of your record; it's amazing, and some people say I love your sound on stage, and I wish that you'd recorded it, a bit more stripped back. And my response is kind of like, well, this is how I, when I sat down to listen to the songs, to develop them, to go into the studio, this is exactly how I heard them in my head. So I'm happy with the production. I'm pleased with how it's come out. But I also I wonder whether maybe the next one might be a little more acoustic, and then maybe that is what sets the work apart, is the sound of it as much as anything, and less kind of, obviously you want to write different songs, but that they're not going to, they're still probably going to be a mixture of songs in 4 and songs in 6/8, and they're still going to have the same kind of similar themes, family stuff that moves me, stuff. But the sound of it is what separates or differentiates the two projects. I don't know. It's still early days, but possibly.
Yeah. The next question I was going to ask is, I guess, about your inspiration radar. That's a way of describing it. How do you, what, I guess, that's the way to word it. I guess it's like, what is it about, where do you get your stories from, in terms of, like, not necessarily where you get them from, but what is it that that draws you to telling a particular story? Is there anything like that? Is there anything where it's like, I'm guessing it's a mixture of personal stories and stories that you've maybe heard or that you've or just interested in. But is there anything there that kind of what draws you to, what makes you think this is something that I'd like to express? Is there anything clear
Yeah, I mean,
that?
I think it's something that moves me, something that makes me feel something. I have wondered, about kind of reaching out to my mailing list, my fans, and asking them to tell me some stories.
That's really nice.
But then I'm also like, well, I don't want to offend anyone if it isn't something that moves me enough to then express that in song. It's definitely something that makes me feel something. So I wrote a song for my grandmother while she was still alive. She passed away at 99 a few years back, and I adored her. She lost her brother when she was 10. He was 17, and she spoke about him a lot, despite the fact that 8 decades had passed. And I was moved by this lady approaching 100 still feeling that intense grief and loss for her sibling, who she never got to know. And so that kind of made me feel deep emotion. Then on the other side of things, my other grandmother, my mum's mum, when my mum told her she was going to marry my dad, she basically said, if you marry this man, I never want to speak to you again. And she didn't speak to my mum for 20 years. Now that makes me feel angry, and it makes me feel hurt on my mum's behalf, but also on behalf of my whole family and my sisters and I growing up with without that person in our lives. And so that kind of anger and that strong feeling, I kind of channel that into music. If it's something, it has to be something that makes me feel an emotion, and if I feel it strongly enough, then it will come out in song.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer for it. This is a funny question that I ask people no doubt, and it's one that some people find hard to answer because it's not is often an instinctual thing, I guess. But is there anything about when you feel like a song's finished? And particularly, I guess, I'm interested in the storytelling side of things. Like, is there anything where you feel like I've said everything I need to say now in this song? So obviously one of the dangers with any kind of creative thing is you can just keep going, can't you? You keep adding different bits and taking things away. Do you have any kind of sense of like, that's what I needed to say there, that's achieved?
Call me lazy, but I'm definitely someone that errs on the side of short rather than the side of I think I try, kind of try and keep it concise, also thinking about from a listener's perspective. If I'm listening to a song and it kind of goes over 4 minutes, then already I'm kind of this song's quite long, unless it's Mrs. Potter's Lullaby by Counting Crows, which almost 8 minutes never fails to keep me hanging until the very end of it. That's another story. No, I think I try and keep it within the kind of couple of verses and find a way to say what I need to say in that space, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. I'm aware of time, so I kind of want to move to section two pretty soon. But one more question I want to ask you about Love You Like I Did. Um, I'm assuming you've played it for the children, and if so, what was that like? What was their reactions to it?
Yeah, I have. I've played it for them, and they've come to a few kind of weekend festival type gigs, and they are now 8 and almost 7-year-old boys. So their reaction is kind of what you would expect, which is they listen and it's really nice, but I think when they're older, much older, in their teens, it will be embarrassing. But probably maybe when they're 30, they might be like, oh yeah, she kind of did
Appreciate
love
it.
us, didn't she?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're good kids. I'm training the eldest to be my roadie. He sometimes carries some of my kit for me. So
Nice, good
got to
work.
get them in training young,
Yeah.
He can manage a guitar stand, so.
Oh, nice, good work. Good stuff. So yeah, let's move into section two now. So this is where I ask my guest for a songwriting tip. So what would your tip be for us today, Hannah?
Well, I guess we've covered it slightly, and it kind of goes back to that kind of thought feeling of authenticity. I think it can be easy to look at people that are that are hugely successful and say, I want to be like Ed Sheeran, I want to be like Coldplay, I'm going to write like they do. Well, there is never going to be another Ed Sheeran or another Chris Martin, and you can't write like them because you aren't them. And as I've got older, I feel really strongly that actually what we have to offer individually is it's so important, and I kind of try my best to tell my own story, rather than writing what I think. Again, we talk about what I think people might want to hear. The song that we're going to talk about shortly, I was having a conversation with someone over breakfast at a music conference a couple of years back, and it was just after I'd lost my dad, and I lost my gran and my dad in the space of a year. And he basically said, "Oh, I don't want to hear people singing about grief. It makes me feel uncomfortable." And I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. And then I went away and I thought about it, and I was like, no, this is my story. These are my feelings right now and in this moment. And if I don't allow those to come out in music, whether or not I ever play the songs live, then I'm not being true to myself and my creative self. And the song that we're going to play, I played it live once just before I went into the studio. I did a gig to kind of present some of the new songs before I went away to record them. And I said, I may never play this song again, but I want to do it once. And it's ended up being the song on the tour that probably people have talked about the most in a positive way, and I think, yeah, I think it's just really important that as writers, creatives, that we tell our own story rather than trying to tell someone else's because we think that that's what people want to hear.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice, Hannah. And I think the way you described that then of like writing what's writing your story, even if you might not play it, it's not like every song you write, you don't have to perform every night. You can judge what feels right for each audience, can't you? But being able to be like, no, this is what I'm feeling, I'm going to write it. But also what you said, oftentimes those songs, I've had lots of people say the similar things where it's like, I wasn't sure if this song was going to be too much, and it ended up being a bit of a showstopper. I don't know, are you familiar with Jason Isbell?
Yes, yeah. I haven't listened to his music, but yeah.
So he's one of my like big heroes. I saw him a week or so ago, and like he's got loads of those songs that are like really, really heavy, and songs where you kind of feel like yeah, like it takes a lot to play a song like that live, but they are like centerpieces of his set, and you can feel it in the audience as soon as he starts, and everyone's like, oh, it's this one. It's like boom. Yeah, but I also kind of think with when an artist where it's like it's kind of hard when you've got an artist where like everyone there knows knows the set list almost, knows the repertoire, knows what to expect. Sometimes it's harder if you've got a song which is really heavy, doing it in a pub gig or a smaller gig where it might not be as, the audience might be a bit more mixed of judging what to.
Yeah, I would definitely, pick and choose my moments where I, play this particular song. And even the song that I mentioned that I wrote for my grandmother, if I'm playing at a slightly rowdy festival, probably singing a song about my gran losing her 17-year-old brother 100 years ago, well, no, not 100, well, almost 100, 95 years ago, it's probably not going to be the thing that is probably not. And also, because those songs are so personal and so, I have such strong emotion around them, I want to play them in a place, not only is it not right for the audience, but it's kind of not right for me, because if I play those songs and everyone's talking through them, or it's not, then that's going to be difficult for me personally as well. If I'm going to play those songs, I feel like I want it to be right for the audience, but I want it to be right for me as an artist as well. So yeah, definitely finding the right place for them.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And I feel like it's doing the song justice, isn't it? It's like not seeing it as. So again, go back to this Jason Isbell concept. He's got a song called "If We Were Vampires," which is basically, it's about what makes a relationship special is knowing that it's going to end. So yeah, it's if we were vampires, we wouldn't have the same kind of thing, because if we were going to live forever, it wouldn't, things wouldn't feel as special as they do knowing that one of us is going to die. Well, we're both going to die at some point. So it's an amazing song, really heavy. But it was on in the foyer before we went into the venue. When people are getting drinks, it was on in the background. They clearly just had a playlist of stuff, and I was like, "This is not a background song. This is not the kind of song you just have on when you're getting a drink. This is like a sit down with and listen to it properly, Sam." So
yeah, it's also a bit straight. People sometimes say to me, "Oh, what kind of music do you want before the gig?" I'm just, not mine. Don't play my music while people are coming into my gig. They're about to hear the songs live. Put something else on. But yes, no, you're right. It's, and probably some people would have been drawn to that song and thought, "Oh, I want to listen to it." But then others who haven't, then yeah.
Yeah, kind of respecting, I guess, your songs of this is the right time to share this song, both for me and for the audience, rather than just this is my set, regardless of what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Really,
yeah. I was lucky actually on my recent tour that I guess I felt able every show that I played to share this, the song that you're going to play shortly. And I guess that's probably down to my agent finding the right venues and the right spaces for me to play in. But I don't think I'll play it at any festivals that I might be involved in next summer. It will be at the seated, intimate listening. I can tell the story, those kind of gigs, So
yeah, brilliant.
Hi everyone, I'm Kath O'Neill, and back in May this year I was diagnosed with grade 4 stomach cancer. I'd heard of the Swan Song Project on the Chris Evans radio show, so I contacted Ben about writing a song to inspire my 10-year-old grandson Rufus to improve his confidence. Working on the song gave me a distraction from my cancer, which was what I really needed. The process didn't take long, about half a dozen sessions online with Ben. He put the song together with some music friends that he has, including Boff Whaley from Chumbawamba. The process was absolutely brilliant. I got so much fun from it. My family loved the song, including Rufus. Thanks for the memory, Ben. I'll never forget it.
So let's go into section 3 now, shall we? And talk about this song. So this is where I ask my guests for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. Which song have you chosen for us for this section, Hannah?
So I've chosen the closing song to my album Absence of Doubt, which is a song called Carry You Out. And I wrote this song about carrying my dad's coffin at his funeral. He passed away coming up for 3 years ago now. It took me a little while to kind of have the brain space to write the song. My sister and I went to the funeral directors to make the plans for his funeral, and we were quite keen, you know, as I guess with a lot of people, that we would be celebrating his life. He was quite a character, my dad, who, you know, he was an entertainer and a comic and a poet, and, like, you know, hugely creative. He traveled all over the world, and we wanted that reflected. But after we discussed all of those things, the subject of burying his coffin came up, and my sister and I looked at each other and we both said that we would like to do it. And the response was very much, that's kind of not, it's not really something for women to do. It's not something that women do. So, okay. So we went away and didn't think much more about it. And then on the day we got there, and I think one of the pallbearers mentioned it, and we kind of again looked at each other and said, no, this is something we do want to do. You know, it's if we were sons, it would be expected of us. So we did, and I think we both felt like it was our final, you know, as our final way of showing respect to him. And the lyric is, you carried me into this world. You know, he was there when I was born, and I will carry you out, and I'm going to be there when you go. There've been a couple of times where I found it quite difficult playing it live, but generally I think there's another song that I wrote for him actually quite a few years ago now, and I played it at his funeral, and a lot of people came up afterwards and said, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you played that song. And I said, well, do you know, I've been playing that song live for 8 years, and you just kind of go a little bit onto autopilot. And I think that's probably the case with this song now, having played it a few times, obviously having recorded it, that I don't think too much about what I'm singing as I'm singing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a few people have you know, messaged me or kind of basically said that it's helped them through, you know, a difficult moment, maybe in the process of losing a parent, or and that, you know, that's really nice, that actually, you know, something that I've created out of, you know, something, you know, a really dark place and a really sad time, can give strength to other people, and that definitely drives me forwards in my creativity. So
yeah, it's a beautiful song, Hannah. So yeah, let's have a listen to it now, shall we? This is Carry You Out.
This is not something daughters do. This is not something women choose. But I will fight to see it through. Here, where my fire meets my flood. Here where my words are not enough. This is my final act of love. You're
Yes, that's Carry You Out. Yeah, it's a beautiful song, and I think you're right what you're saying that it'll resonate with a lot of people. And I think it's very well written in terms of the specific details, and particularly what you're saying then about being a woman wanting to carry the coffin and that not being a normal thing that people do, and that kind of issue there. So that's kind of great that that's in it as well. And so I was thinking then, like, hopefully that encourages other women who might want to do that to feel like, oh yeah, we can do that. And
Yeah.
hearing that, but then I was also thinking that, like, for me listening to it, I picked up on those lyrics, but I can also it doesn't mean that, like, as a man I don't resonate with the song as much, because just the message of carrying you out is still, so it's one of those songs that like can appeal to lots of people, but also has that um, specificity, which makes it even more special for women in that situation, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that, when we discussed it was, oh, you know, he'll be heavy. Yes, okay, we're not four women attempting to carry, a 6 foot man. There are also six pallbearers there.
Yeah.
And, that there is no reason why we shouldn't. There really isn't. And yeah, and I'm with hindsight, I'm so glad we did. There's lots of things about that time that I feel very grateful for. One was being able to be with him as he passed, which obviously 2 year or 18 months before, lots of people were not able to be with their loved ones because of COVID. And that's something that I wouldn't change at all. I'm so grateful for that, but I'm also grateful that my sister and I said no, that we do want to do this, and it's something that will stay with me all my life. And if and when at some point I lose my mum, then I will want to do exactly the same thing. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful. It's one of those things where, like, it seems like when I first heard the song and I was thinking about it, of like, it's one of those, like, it almost feels like a perfect lyric, doesn't it? Of you carry me into this world and I'll carry you out of it. That, like, I was kind of surprised I've not heard songs with that before. Sometimes when you hear something like that, it's like, oh yeah, that's such a kind of beautiful symmetry, um, and works so well as a chorus. It almost felt like I'm surprised I've not heard more songs which are talking about this part of saying goodbye to someone, of literally carrying them out, and that symmetry we're doing, of them carrying into the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. I think, yeah, when that idea came into my head, like that was the lyric first, actually. But I didn't have like I said, I didn't really have the space to sit down. Wasn't in the right place. I
Yeah.
knew quite soon after that I wanted to write this song, and it's actually the last song that I wrote for the record. I'd written everything else, and I was like, I want to write this song. This is the last one. But I had to be far enough away emotionally that I was able to do it. It was still quite hard to write it, I've got to be honest. But yeah, I needed a bit of a gap between the it happening and then being able to sit down and write about it. But one of the things that comes up about the song as well is the kind of the repeated the note on the piano, and how it almost kind of sounds like a funeral march. It sounds like a bell tolling, and that was completely, I'll be honest, that wasn't intended.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that, I listen back and I'm like, well, it does actually, and I think in the sound of the song overall, that kind of adds to the feeling and the meaning as well. But yeah, that was, I suppose, a happy accident, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my dad helping me out from above.
Yeah. Yeah, some kind of unconscious, not knowing
Yeah,
it at the time, but this is the
yeah,
way
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, it's great. And I think that's good as well, of like, I think sometimes people, when they've had a difficult experience, or like, or maybe not a difficult experience, but a big experience in their life, and want to put it into song sometimes, or into any creative thing, sometimes it's like, oh, I need to do it now when it's fresh. And again, it's like, and I definitely have thought that in the past, if something like that's happened, and I've been like, right, I should write a song about this. But it is really, really hard to do. I mean, we get it with Swan Song as well. We get people, sometimes it's, immediately after a loss, people come to us and want to write a song. And sometimes we've had it where it has been like, do you want to come back in a few months or in a year? Like, we'll still be here. Sometimes people are really keen to get it done, and sometimes it's really helpful for them in the grief. But sometimes it is just, maybe we need to have a little bit longer to let this settle, and then come back when you're ready to
yeah. I mean, I
process it a
think
bit more.
I'd tried to write it much sooner, I would have just been a bawling mess over the piano, and it would,
Yeah.
there, there are, other, on that list of themes, there are other ideas and songs that have kind of come out of my grief. I've said, while I've been playing live recently, that I'm aware my set is quite dad heavy, and I don't want to, kind of be pigeonholed as the musician that sings a ton of songs about like losing her dad, but at the same time, grief is a really deep feeling, and it will find its way. As a creative person, I know that it will find its way into music. I guess it's up to me how I balance my set, really, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And I imagine they'll probably come out in different ways as well. There might be songs that aren't obviously about your dad, about your
Yeah,
grief, but it'll be in there in different ways. It expresses itself in lots of different ways, doesn't it?
yeah, no, absolutely. And there's another song on that album called Broken Homes, which is, as you can probably guess from the title, about the language that we use around separated families, and how we're still conditioned to believe that families should stay together for the kids. And my perspective, obviously, on that is that my stepkids are growing up much happier in two homes where the relationships are happy than they would have done in one where the relationship was very unhappy. And my dad was brought up with, obviously a long time ago, 40s, 50s, with two parents who were very unhappy, and he bore those scars all his life. And so his story will also find its way into other songs, I think. Um, I wonder if maybe it would have done even if he was still alive. I don't know, but yeah, maybe there's more of an awareness about, or maybe not even an unconscious desire to kind of tell his story now he's not here to tell it anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, 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 brilliant. Well, I look forward to hearing what comes out of it all, and your next project. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time, Hannah. It's been really nice talking to you. And so the new album, Absence of Doubt, is out now.
That's right. Yeah.
People can get it. So I'll put all the links to your website and your social media and everything in the description. So go and check that out and listen to the rest of the songs. 'Cause, yeah, we've talked about a few different ones from the album today that you might want to go and listen to as well. But yeah, thanks very much, Hannah. And so you say, and anything else you want to plug when you're here? You've got, so you're working on new stuff. So and you've just finished a tour, haven't you? So
Yeah, I've just finished a tour. There will be some spring dates announcing shortly. Yeah, and just kind of getting my brain in the mindset to start creating again, overcome that fear, and try and find the child within. So
yeah,
that's the plan for the next few months, really. So
yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Good
thank
stuff.
you.
Yeah, thank you
It's
very
really
much,
good to
Hannah.
chat.
And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.